Never reminded, never taking whatever you told me. I know what I could be, making emotion paintable and so tell me, is this what you made me?
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy, Dr. Byron, sitting up here coming back with another show. I want to sit up here and definitely just talk about some things that's really been on my mind and on my heart pretty heavy lately. And that's about, first of all, Jesse Lee Peterson. That's what the topic is going to be about today. Jesse Lee Peterson was sitting up here disrespecting George Floyd. Now, keep in mind, George Floyd was no angel. He was no saint. Let's keep it real. George Floyd do have a criminal past. Let's keep it real. But one thing that we cannot deny or deflect was that cop murdering George Floyd. If you separate what George Floyd did to what happened on that day, you would clearly see that it was murder. Now, I made a show which I had to sit up here and delete because I'm like, no, wait a minute. George Floyd did not want to go inside of that car, but why? And I'm gonna tell you why. He had anxiety. When people who struggle with anxiety, they have a difficult time going through that invisible wall. And that's what he had. He was a large man, 6'7", 6'6" dude, trying to get in the back of a small vehicle. He had anxiety. These cops who was not trained to know about psychology and the abnormal behaviors that comes with it did not realize that this man was already fighting a battle internally and mentally. Jesse "RACCOON" Peterson was disrespecting this man and basically saying, forget psychology. I have a problem with that. As a man who went to school to learn about psychology for the last 2 years, you learn about the abnormal behaviors. And there's a lot of different abnormal behaviors. One of them is being an alcoholic. The other one is being a drug dealer or a drug addict. The other one is anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, bipolarism. All these things are abnormal behaviors. But before I sit up here and really go in, let me go ahead and talk about my people for a minute. Let me talk about my people for a minute, because I'll be hearing a lot about white supremacy. What about black supremacy? No disrespect to my people. What about black supremacy? Us as black people, we sit up here and see and know people from our own circle who have set up here and killed someone, selling drugs to someone of the same race, and who has been stealing. Now, how can we sit up here and scream white supremacy when your black neighbor is selling drugs to your other black neighbor. No disrespect to my people. How can we sit up here and scream about white supremacy holding us back and things of that nature when in reality, white people made a lot of us rich? We want to keep having that slave mentality. In the process, we are living as victims in our own mind. And when we live as victims, how can we sit up here and say that we're equal to our counterparts? We have opportunities. But you know what? Us as Black people, we're not inspired by people like Dr. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's wife. We're not inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They was around when racism was really real, where segregation was really real, where people were still being hung because of the color of their skin, where they still had colored only and whites only. No disrespect to my people. Here I am, a Black man with all these tattoos from the neck down, earrings in both my ears, hat to the side, on his way to become a doctor. You mean to tell me that you can't? I'm gonna tell you the truth. The reality is you can, but you refuse to because you want to live in a victim mentality. No disrespect to my people. Just over the weekend, a Black man took his car and ran through a crowd who was there for Christmas. 5 lives gone. 5 lives gone. I guess that was white supremacy fault too. That was white supremacy fault too. Over the weekend, 50 Black people set up here and robbed a mall, stealing thousands, if not millions of merchandise from that mall. And they had on hoods, but we wonder why white people are uncomfortable seeing us coming up to them with our hoods on. Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman. We wonder why. We wonder why. We can't sit up here and act like we're not bringing some of this stuff onto ourselves. And the reason why we keep getting away with it is because we keep blaming somebody else for our actions. No disrespect to my people. We keep sitting up here wanting to have victim mentalities, but you know what? We have overcame slavery. Weak people don't go through nothing. It's the strong people that go through stuff. We are strong people. They have died so we can be free. And this is what we do with the freedom. This is how we respect their deaths. They died an honorable death because they stood up for something. You know what us Black people do? We go back to the Jesse Jacksons. Man can barely walk. Man need assistance using the restroom. The man can barely see. Colin Powell had dementia and all that stuff before he passed, RIP to him. But this is who we go back to. You know why? Because no one in this day and age is inspired to be like them. So we keep going back. These people are past their prime. These people are old elderlies now. And some of them are dead. We're not inspired to be like them. We have opportunities now, but we don't do nothing with it except kill each other. Brazen to go to that rapper in broad daylight, 2 gunmen, and shoot him in broad daylight. Brazen to go to FBG Doug in an upper scale mall and shoot him in broad daylight. We just don't care no more. We just to the point now, we sit up here and disrespect the dead. Oh, I'm smoking duck now. Walking around with duck wrote on your shoes. Yeah, we smoke duck now. We smoke duck. Got rappers on top of the graves of their ops, rapping about their deaths. This is how we are. FBG Duck said, I knew I was a demon at the age of 12. No disrespect to my people. We need to tighten up. We need to tighten up. We need to quit blaming everybody else. We need to stop that. Some of you right now don't like white people, but that's exactly who you run to given the first chance. I understand that there are Black people who came before the Dr. Martin Luther Kings, the Harriet Tubmans, and all of these great Black people. I understand that, but I'm talking about the Black people who made a difference for us so we can be free today. That's the area I'm living in right now. That's my era. These people have stood up and stood up for their cause on our behalf. I ain't talking about Black people before them or after them. I'm talking about the ones who have paved the way so that we can be free. Let me get into the show. That was a monologue. Let me get into the show right now. This is about Jesse RACCOON Peterson, Coon, and I cannot emphasize that enough, disrespecting George Floyd. Disrespecting him. Deflecting from the issues this man had. And yes, that pissed me off. Let's get into the show. Share sound. Let's.
George Floyd, you know, that unemployed drug addict
Wow.
with
Sure.
the criminal record?
Sure.
Were you surprised when the blacks blamed the cop rather than blaming the unemployed drug addict for his death? Were you surprised when the blacks did that?
Do you believe? No, I don't see a problem with it. I'm answering your question first. Okay.
Were you surprised when
Wait, hold
the
on really
blacks
quickly.
pretended that it was the cops' problem instead of, the cops' fault that George Floyd is dead, when George Floyd was an unemployed drug addict with a criminal record?
So do you
Were you
think?
surprised at the blacks' reaction to that?
Well, do you think that an unemployed drug addict?
See, right there, what that raccoon in the suit is sitting up here saying, he's basically taking responsibility off of the officer, or shall I say officers, who killed George Floyd. Yes, George Floyd was no saint, but that's not the point. The point is, was that murder? And yes, that was murder. Those officers did not know that George Floyd had these problems, or shall I say, these abnormal behaviors, these abnormal conditions. The cops did not know that. So RACCOON Peterson cannot sit up here and say that's the reason why George Floyd died. No, it was not. No, it was not. That cop wanted to basically reign supreme on that big Black man, and probably in his eyes, a big Black buck.
Addict, do you think that because he was unemployed and addicted to drugs, which I'm not even sure he was addicted to drugs, but whatever, but do you think because he was unemployed, and let's assume addicted to drugs,
the way Derek Chauvin was on top of George Floyd is the same way a hunter be on top of his kill, posing for the cameras. Have y'all noticed that? Derek Chauvin knew that cameras was on him, but yet he was looking in the camera, standing with his knee on top of that man's neck. That's what those hunters do. Whenever they kill a big boar or kill a big buck, they stand on top, they sit on top on with their knee like that. That was a straight up demon on top of George Floyd.
that somehow in and of itself resulted in the compression on his neck that denied his brain oxygen?
You didn't answer my question.
I am answering it.
No, I asked you a question. I asked you, were you surprised at the reaction of the blacks when the unemployed drug addict with the criminal record
Jeez. Man, you really hate yourself in some ways, but it's sure. So no, I'm not surprised.
Were you surprised that the blacks blamed the cop and not the addict?
I am not surprised that the cops blame, that the Black people, or not just Black people, obviously a jury of his peers found it who were not Black. Obviously coroners were not Black in this scenario. I'm not surprised that the vast majority of sane people were able to recognize that it's
Keep in mind too, and shout out to all of my European brothers and sisters, because this is the thing about what this Black raccoon is doing. He's saying, were you surprised that the blacks was angry at the fact of George Floyd dying? Listen, you raccoon. It wasn't just blacks that was upset about that situation. It was white people who was upset about that situation. this situation was so big, it went worldwide, and people across the world were sitting up here protesting on George Floyd's behalf. You idiot. So quit sitting up here and trying to make it sound like it was just the blacks that was upset. No, we stand together. We are united. And I don't care what color you are. You can be Mexican, you can be black, you can be white, you can be Indian, you can be Asian. There's enough room for all of us on that red, white, and blue flag. Now, we have a problem with rappers disrespecting the dead, then why the hell are we gonna sit up here and stand for this raccoon disrespecting George Floyd? Ain't he dead too? Come on, let's keep it real. This raccoon is a demon in sheep clothing. And I can care less who thinks otherwise. All he is a demon in sheep clothing. Even in the Bible, it says, beware of false prophets, for they come in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravishing wolves.
Suppression of the suppression on his neck resulted in a lack of oxygen, which ultimately caused his death. Both an independent coroner and the other coroner both found this to be true. So no, I would not be surprised that people who had access to the actual information released by the coroner were able to identify that this cop's action by putting his knee on his neck for that amount of time resulted in his death. So no, that's not surprising at all.
You're saying, no, Jesse, I'm not surprised at the blacks blaming the cops rather than the unemployed drug addict with the record, with criminal record.
If that's what you took from that, but let me ask you this: do you blame the coroner?
I want to be clear. You're not.
I know. I answered the question very directly.
Are you saying yes? No, Jesse, I'm not surprised at the reaction of the blacks.
I think I answered it with some additional information.
But I didn't hear yes.
Okay,
or no.
I'm sorry.
Let me tell y'all about brain death. Let me tell y'all about brain death. Brain death is when all signs of brain activity as measured electrical brain waves have ceased. When brain death occurs, there's no possibility of restoring functioning. There's no possibility of restoring functioning. When you are brain dead, you might as well say you're flatline, because it's over. There's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. So even if George Floyd would have survived, he still would have been dead because his brain died. When you can't reason, when you can't think, when you can't feel, some would say you dead already. This is what I've been learning in psychology. This is what I'm going to become a doctor for, is to learn more about the human and about traumatizing and about brain deaths and about the traumas that people face. We don't know if George Floyd faced trauma in his earlier years, but I do know that there was another video when he got pulled over by the cops and he was screaming for his mom then. Did he have an intuition? Did he foresee that his life was going to end by the cops? Because that was not the first time he was screaming for his mom. And he was even saying then, don't kill me, in his first video, or in the first video that caught him. He was saying that then. I don't know. Only God knows, and George himself knows, but he ain't here to answer that question.
Well, I'll say it one more time. Let me fully answer it. No, I'm not surprised.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. No, I'm not surprised.
All right.
No, I got you. No, I'm not surprised, especially considering the information from the coroner clearly demonstrated that the suppression on his neck was caused by the officer, which resulted in his death. Do you think that a person being unemployed and and addicted to drugs would somehow result in compression in their neck, denying their brain oxygen?
I think that he gets what he deserves. He doesn't care about his own life.
Jesse.
If he ain't cared about
he get what he deserves. He did not care about his own life. Wow. Dang. And this man can get away with saying this on a public platform. Wow.
his own life, he would not have been a drug addict and a criminal record.
So do you believe because
Am I right about that?
I totally agree. Yes, I do agree. I think that a person who values their life would probably not be addicted to drugs or have criminal records.
And secondly,
but would
if
you
his
say
knee wasn't on the neck?
would you Okay. Did the knee where the knee was placed?
Near the
Did it?
neck, but not on the neck.
Sure. Where it was placed, did it result in in the cessation of oxygen, of required oxygen?
Who's to say that George Floyd was not trying to get help? There are plenty of people out there who are addicts who was trying to get help. Who's to say that George Floyd wasn't trying to get help? People just want to write him off as a butthole, but who's to say that he wasn't trying to get help? I mean, for real, who's to say that he wasn't? And y'all clearly seen the video. He was not resisting the cops. The only thing that he was not resisting the cops as far as like putting the handcuffs on, but the only thing that he was resisting was him going inside the back of the police officer's car. And again, if anybody know anything about psychology and about anxiety, they will understand that this man could not go through that invisible wall. He was scared. He was uncomfortable. He was very uncomfortable. And especially with the way media is acting right now, portraying cops against Black men, I would be uncomfortable to go inside of a police officer car as well. I'm just gonna keep it real with you.
Oxygen to his
No.
brain that resulted. So you disagree with the coroner?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So did you go to medical school? Where'd you get this information?
I went to common sense school.
Oh, so common sense says that a coroner would just lie and make up that compression
No,
on the
the
neck.
people around them lied and made it up.
But the coroner
But let me
himself
do this
said it.
because of time.
Okay, got you. We're
Yeah,
moving
I don't
past
want to argue about that.
You're
all
right.
day.
You're right. I
Because
didn't
time
either.
is going by really fast here.
You're right.
You
That's how you know that raccoon with facial hair who looks like a peanut with hair on his face is basically just being used as a puppet. This man did not go to no school, no medical school, to learn about these types of situations. He do not have no type of education in psychology to understand people's abnormal behaviors. All he wants to do is just put on a show for you guys and entertain you guys, and then use God as a means for his actions, which is crazy, because for any Christian out there, they would know that this is ungodly.
said, it's been written here that you said you didn't want to pick up food because you would have to drive through wealthy neighborhoods, and you thought the cops were going to pull you over. You said if I could put on a white skin for 30 minutes while I go make food run, I would do it and I wouldn't feel nervous anymore. Did you say
For sure.
that?
For sure.
Why would you say something like that?
Well, I happen to live in a pretty nice neighborhood. It's like super duper predominantly white.
You say you live in a neighborhood like that?
Sure, it's on the rich side of town, and I think in the middle of all of the unrest, I would say the trauma caused by the George Floyd situation.
You were traumatized by that?
Absolutely.
How old are you?
I'm 37 now.
And you were traumatized by George Floyd thing?
For sure.
What?
Do you not? Well, I know you're not a psychologist,
What
so yeah, I get it. I know you probably struggle with psychology, but sure. So I would say that and it wasn't just that one in and of
Are
itself.
you grown or are you a baby?
I think I'm a pretty grown man.
How you gonna be traumatized by something like that?
Do you think grown men can't be traumatized?
No.
Oh,
They
okay.
can if they're in a fallen state, but
Oh, you have to be in a fallen state.
go ahead, explain
Yeah,
why.
basically, so what it was is I live in a pretty rich neighborhood, and ultimately I recognized that, like, I saw the circumstances around not just George Floyd, but then the surrounding events as well, and all of the other people, Ahmaud Arbery, and so on and so forth, and the lack of accountability for cops gave me pause to consider the fact that if I am driving, at the time I was driving a much worse car.
Now, keep in mind, let's talk about what Jesse Raccoon said. He said he went to common sense school, but now he's laughing at this man because this man is choosing to use his common sense. We cannot deny that cops do sit up here and pull Black men over for no reasons. We can't deny that that is still going on in this day and age. So because this man is using his common sense and basically saying that he were to drive through other neighborhoods to get to his destination, Jesse Raccoon Peterson laughs about it. But wait a minute, Raccoon Peterson, didn't you just say you use your common sense? So because this young black man is using his common sense, you laugh. Why? What's up with the hit? What's up with the laugh? What's up with the laugh? Why laugh at him when basically he's doing the same thing you're doing, and that's using common sense? And Raccoon Peterson cannot sit up here and say that he never was probably singled out. Come on now, let's keep it real.
Car than I am now, and I felt somewhat uncomfortable with the idea that, man, me in this car in this neighborhood will stick out like a sore thumb. And I can imagine police officers wanting to give me specific attention, being a black man in this neighborhood in this car. And so that gave me a little bit of pause and made me feel somewhat a tinge of trepidation. Ultimately, I would go get the food, but I think that sort of thing, I'm a very risk-averse person.
Amazing.
And I would say
so
that
why
made
don't you
me
move out
nervous.
of your little rich white neighborhood?
Why should I?
But you're afraid of the whites.
No, I'm not afraid of the whites. What is? I'm sorry. I don't know how you got that
You've
from
been
what I said.
traumatized.
Do you think that the trauma
So
would
how do
disappear
you
if I was in a black
travel around
neighborhood?
in your white neighborhood,
I drive in.
knowing that the cops may drive up behind you? What you doing over here, boss?
I've adjusted and I drive around with faith in God that I will be protected, and that's how I live my life.
Amazing. And you said you have gone exclusively black dating now.
Absolutely.
No more white dating.
No.
Why only black?
Well, so I would say that I felt the need. I think it's important for me to make sure that I raise my children without this this need for, without experiencing internalized racism. That's my goal. I think it's an important thing because that was a really painful thing that I went through, having experienced it. And so I feel like the easiest way to do that is to instill self-love from the very beginning. And I think a black woman would probably be more equipped in helping my child to inherit that black love and that self-love and to distance himself from internalized racism.
So you want your child to have black love?
For sure.
But black love is dark and evil.
Whoa, I don't even know.
Yo, let me say this real quick. And I want to simply say this. Shout out to C Mac real quick. He brought something to my attention the other day. We as black people have been called black all of our lives. But in reality, we're brown. We're not black. We're brown people. Let me say this real quick. Black has always been associated with something bad or evil or not good. When you think about hell, you think about a dark place. You think about black demons, black pits. You never think about black as being anything positive. Even Jesse Raccoon Peterson be talking about there's no black love. There's nothing good that comes from black people. We're not black, we're brown. So why am I bringing that point up? Because psychologically, we are programmed to think that we are evil, and therefore we always trying to climb our way out of the rut that we're in. We're trying to climb our way out of that pit that we are in. But if we sit up here and acknowledge that we're brown people, you ain't gonna have to climb no more. The whole perspective of yourself is gonna change. Black, even in the dictionary, was associated as evil. When you think about heaven, you think about light. You think about white angels with blonde hair, blue eyes. You think about something good and pure when you think about heaven. But when you think about hell, it's always dark and black and evil. Well, listen, we're not black. We're brown. We're brown people. And we are some of the most strongest people on this earth, not even just genetically speaking, but mental-wise. We are some of the strongest people on earth. Let's continue with this show.
Well, how to engage with that one, Jesse?
Do you think God's love is black?
I don't think God's love has a color.
But what is black love then?
Oh, black love is like the love of one, because we are black, like you and I. Although you might forget it sometimes, I would say that the love of ourselves. I would say black love,
But
like
black
as a
people
black
don't
man, to
have
love
love.
yourself. I think that a lot of times, what do you mean by that?
Black people don't have love.
There's no, Jesse, do you have love?
Not all, but most.
Okay. I don't know how to engage with.
He talking about, I'm gonna say, brown people not having love. Listen, we do have to tighten up in a lot of areas. There's no doubt about it. We do still have a long way to go. There's no doubt about it. But every time I step out my house, I see a brown couple. I see families together. I see brown people sitting up here protesting together. I see brown families sticking together. So what Raccoon Peterson is doing, he's basically taking out a snippet and basically sitting up here like broadening and putting all of us in that category, like broadening the negativity that they see on social media. He's using that one snippet and broadening it and making it seem like that's a reflection of all brown people. And that's not true. There's good brown people out there. Great brown people. Matter of fact, we started Black Wall Street back in the day. We were lawyers. We were doctors. The Black fathers or brown fathers was in the household. We were dentists. And this, again, is when segregation was really real. He don't talk about that, though. He don't talk about that. And what's so sickening is he's supposed to be a Christian. He's supposed to be a God-fearing man. But yet, he is dividing brown people and European people. That's what he is doing. And last I read my Bible, the Bible says Satan is the author of confusion. So why is this man creating confusion as if brown people are not uniting with European people, as if brown people are not uniting with Hispanic people? My brother is Mexican. And to this day, he would tell you, that's my brother right there. We don't care about what color you are. My brother is Mexican.
I would say that Black people have love, but I do think you're right that we are lacking some forms of self-love because of like the historic Jim Crow laws and some of the colorism and things like that that have been instilled within Black culture.
That's not why y'all lack love, man. The reason Blacks don't have love is that they hate God.
Oh, but I love God.
No.
How do I not love God?
Because you can't love God and Satan too, man.
I don't love Satan.
Let me ask you this. Do you love white people?
I love every people.
Do you love white people?
Sure, I love them too.
Do you love white people?
I love white people too, yes.
Do you love white people?
I just answered the question.
Do you love white people?
As much as I do everyone else, yes. So I love white people.
Do you love white people?
I love Black people, so yes, I love white people too.
Do you love white people?
Yes. It's such a simple, reductive question, but sure, I take from it what you want.
But why do you just answer yes?
Because it's really reductive.
What do you mean?
Because, well, for example, I love all people.
But I didn't ask you about all people.
I know you didn't, but if I don't answer it in that way, someone can take away from it. If I don't follow it up or provide more context, they can take that, oh, you only love white people.
No, they're taking away that you don't love white because you got to add everybody else into it.
Ooh, I don't know if that's not how language works.
No, I asked you, do you love white people?
Sure.
Sure, I love everybody. Do you love white people? Sure, I love it.
So if the answer is sure, sure means yes.
People? Sure, I love white people, but I love my dog too.
Why you do my voice so high like that, Jesse? Knock that off.
No. So, do you support Black Lives Matter?
No, the organization or the movement?
The movement.
Oh, I support the movement, but I think the movement is distinct from the organization.
And what's the difference between the movement and the organization?
Well, the organization is a specific select body that like have their own ideology, which seems like it's rooted in some forms of Marxism and other things like that, which I completely distance myself from. I think capitalism is the absolute best economic system on the planet. However, I think the movement, I think most people in the movement who would use the slogan and things like that, considering how decentralized the movement is, are completely disconnected from the organization as a whole. And I support what the movement is focused on, which is to make sure that Black lives are being valued in such that there would be justice for people who do wrong to Black lives. But the organization is on some other nonsense that I have nothing to do with.
But the so-called movement was started by a bunch of fat, black, radical, socialist, communist lesbians, right?
Okay. So,
lesbian.
Sure, but that might be the genetics fallacy.
Anti-God. They don't
You see how he's always speaking negatively about the brown community. Do you see how he's always sitting up here being disrespectful and downgrading the brown community? I don't care, like I said before, that he wants to be white and that he says he's 100% white. I can care less about all of that. But the reason why he's even here is because there were Black people before him who paved the way. So basically what he is doing is spitting on all of their graves. They are the reason why he even have a platform to speak on today. They are the reason why he has freedom of speech today. They are the reason why he got freedom of religion today. So he just spit on all of those people's graves because he wants to sit up here and share his crazy ideologies with the world. This dude is crazy. This dude is no Christian. This dude is no pastor. He's a false hypocrite and always got something negative to say about the brown race. But European brothers and sisters, he's spitting on y'all too, because there was several hundreds, thousand white men who left their wives, who left their children, who left their pregnant woman to fight on our behalf. And they died too. So he's spitting on y'all ancestors too.
Believe in God. How could the movement be right knowing that the founders were wrong?
Well, that could be the genetics fallacy. For example, in this case, maybe these individuals did that, right? But then again, if we start moving and doing something independent of that, then at that point, then I don't think it
That's
necessarily.
amazing. What did you think about the Blacks attacking the Asians people, knocking them out, robbing them on the streets, and the media blaming it on white people?
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I thought that the FBI actually released information that detailed that the vast majority of hate crimes against Asian Americans were coming from white people.
But you didn't see white people doing it. You did see Black people doing it.
I
So
saw
what
both.
did you think when they would show Black people attacking the Asians?
The guy who
but
shot up that
when
spa in
but-
Texas, he
but
was
when
white.
they mentioned it, they would say white people doing it. What did you think about that when you saw that?
That didn't happen. The guy who shot up that
They
spa in
did.
Texas was white.
One guy, right?
That was
But
5
all
women.
the other hundreds of Black people who were knocking Asians out in the streets and robbing them, and they were Black.
And everybody, I just want to say, I got a show that I'm going to be working on soon. I'm going to create a panel. We're going to talk about Black America versus Asian America. That's going to be my next show. That's something that needs to be talked about. See, on the Dr. Byron podcast show, we're going to sit up here and talk about all of these things that are really not being talked about. That's what my job is to do. It's time for the voiceless to have a voice. It's time for the unspoken words to now be spoken words. It's time for us to sit up here and talk about these things. Because at the end of the day, if there's a problem that's small, it don't go nowhere. It gets worse. It gets worse.
Blaming it on the whites. So when you looked at the video, you saw white people too?
So
instead
Jesse,
of the
do you
Blacks?
just ignore data?
No, I'm asking you, when you saw it was Black people doing it, but you heard white people doing it, did you see white instead of Black?
I heard people actually saying Black people were doing it, and then the data finally actually revealed that white people were doing
But when
it.
you
And so we
saw
were
the real
incorrectly
people-
assigned guilt on that thing.
When you saw white, that it was Black.
See, I have to say just real quick, that Black man right there or brown man right there is a reflection of what I just was talking about. Immediately when he was confronted about what his people is doing, which is brown people, he immediately started blaming the other race, which is the white race. That's what I was talking about in the very beginning of this podcast. We need to stop blaming blaming other races and start taking accountability for our own actions. This is what we do. This is what we do. We always want to deflect. And as a result of us deflecting, we keep doing the same thing. Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. We got to stop. We got to tighten up.
Doing it.
I didn't.
In your mind, you thought you saw white?
I don't think I really saw a lot of imagery. I didn't really follow the imagery, but I think I just read a lot of articles, and I looked at the data.
Do you believe there's such a thing as white supremacy?
Oh, for sure. Do you not?
do. And why do you believe that white people are superior to you?
I don't believe white people are superior.
But then
to
why
me.
do you call them white supremacy if you don't believe they're superior to you?
White supremacy is an ideology. It is a belief system. And so white people can hold the belief that they are superior to me. They can. They're
but
just
white
not.
people don't believe that. But
Do you believe there are no white people that believe that they're superior to
maybe
black
you can
people?
find one or two, but
One
it's
or
the
two.
black people who see the white people superior to them. Why do the blacks see white people superior to them?
I don't believe that that's what white
You
supremacy
hear it from
means.
their mouth all the time.
With
so
the
they
phrase
do
white
see it that way.
supremacy?
Again, you guys, I'm just going to keep it 100 with you. The first indication of stupidity is a complete lack of shame. The first indication of stupidity is a complete lack of shame. Us as Black people, we don't feel shamed no more because we're so busy wanting to keep pointing at him or pointing at her. Oh, it's white supremacy. Oh, it's the white man. Oh, she made me do it. Oh, they put drugs in our community. Oh, they put guns in our community. As if they the ones that put the cocaine in your nose. As if they the ones who pulled the trigger on that gun. As if they the one that's making us go to the ABC store to drink that bottle of whiskey. They can put it there, but they can't make you drink it. You heard that lay theory before? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Again, everybody, the first indication of stupidity is a complete lack of shame.
Yeah, from the blacks.
No, that's
Why
a reference.
do the blacks see white people superior to them?
That's a reference to an ideology, not to a state of being.
What does that mean? In the black's mind?
Y'all, without love, we fall ill. Without love, we fall ill. And guess what is going on with the brown race? We're falling ill because we don't have love for each other. We don't have love for each other. We are falling ill to our own demise. And like I said earlier, we keep looking back at the Jesse Jacksons and people like that, the Colin Powells, and people like that. You know why? We got to keep looking back and going back. Reverend Al Sharpton, to people like them who's old, gray, can barely walk, need assistance, using the restroom, need assistance, getting out their car, need assistance, being held up. The reason why, because no one is stepping up to take their place. Nobody is stepping up to take their place. And what's so crazy is we live in a digital era where anybody can sit up here and speak their mind now openly and freely from their own homes. But what are we doing with social media? Talking junk to each other, disrespecting each other, talking about, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill them, I'm gonna kill that person. Like I said before, we don't respect women like Dr. Betty Shabazz, who became a doctor when racism and segregation was really real. No, we respect Cardi B's. We respect Megan Thee Stallion. We respect songs like WAP. This is what we subdued to. Again, without love, we fall ill. No disrespect to my people.
You don't know what ideology means?
Yeah, but are you saying that in the blacks' mind they believe whites are superior?
No.
But it's not real?
No, the blacks believe that the whites believe. I know this is 2 layers, so it might be hard for you
But
to
the
follow.
whites don't ever say that about themselves.
There's no white nationalist
You
organizations?
never hear, no, you never hear that
You've
from
never
the
heard for
whites.
anyone calling for an ethno-state, white people?
Well, I mean, aren't you a nationalist?
No, I don't consider myself a nationalist.
You're not a nationalist?
No.
Were you
I-
born
why don't-
here? Were you born here in America?
Sure.
And you don't put your country first?
I put God first,
Not America?
not America first.
So
No.
you're not you don't believe in your country being first?
Not before God, absolutely not.
Amazing.
You
So
wait, you put your country before God?
you the one added God, but I
I'm
put my
asking you, do you
country
put your
before
country? Do
any
you put
other country.
Okay? Oh,
America
before other
first.
countries? Sure.
America
Yeah.
first. So you're a nationalist.
I don't think that's what nationalist means,
It
but I'm.
is.
You know what? I don't have the definition in
It
front of me, so
means
you might
putting
be
your
right.
country before other countries.
Okay, if that's the case, then yeah, I probably put my country before others.
So you're a nationalist.
I don't. I have to read the word to be able to see that.
But you believe in putting your country first before
Sure.
other countries.
I do believe in doing
So
that.
you're a nationalist.
Okay, if that's what you believe that a nationalist is, then sure, I'll accept
so
that.
you're a black nationalist.
Let me say this on the behalf of George Floyd. This is a quote from Socrates, 470, 399 BC, who is a Greek philosopher. He said, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle." Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. George Floyd was fighting a hard battle. He was fighting a hard battle. There are people right now that some of you guys know who is fighting a hard battle. That hard battle could be substance abuse. That hard battle could be trying to find love within yourself and trying to find balance within yourself. That hard battle could be anorexia, which is another abnormal behavior. It could be alcoholism. It could be a drug addict, whatever it is. He said, be kind to everyone you meet because we are fighting a hard battle. Why can't Raccoon Peterson acknowledge that life is hard? Matter of fact, life is the hardest thing you will ever do. And I'm going to tell you this, the only good is knowledge. The only evil is ignorance. That raccoon that's on that stage right now in that fancy suit with that black beard is ignorant. He's ignorant. And those who is the hardest to love, like Jesse Raccoon Peterson, he needs love the most.
I'm a nationalist who is black. Is that what you're trying to say?
You're a black nationalist.
Do you understand the difference between a nationalist and a black nationalist and a nationalist who is black? Or do you
Yeah,
not think that those three things are distinct?
A nationalist is a black man who put his country first. A nationalist is a black man who put the country first, or a country who put the black man, whatever, right? It's still.
Oh, yeah, so you
you're
don't know
still
the
a black
difference.
nationalist.
Okay, if that's what you believe.
You don't believe you are?
No, I don't.
But you say you put your country first, right?
But I hear you. But black nationalist has all sorts of different connotations.
Everybody. I just want everybody who have watched this video, definitely push the subscribe, definitely push the like, definitely push the share. And I hope everybody enjoyed this video. I hope no one got offended by what I was saying. Because at the end of the day, we all are fighting a hard battle. But just remember, my black brothers and sisters, or brown brothers and sisters, you can do anything that you put your mind to. You can do anything. And I'm gonna leave you with this quote. Hoping is just a feeling. Wishing is just a distant dream. Taking action is steps towards success. That quote came from Dr. Byron. I created that quote. Be safe out there, everybody. And if I don't hear from you between now and Thanksgiving, have a blessed Thanksgiving. There are some family members who did not make it to see this Thanksgiving. There are some family members who are going to look across the table and the person that you used to see there every year, you ain't going to see them this year. Life is too short, you guys, and life is going to end horribly for most of us. The best thing to do is put your trust and your faith in God and keep learning, because at the end of the day, learning is the only thing that's completely yours. Some of y'all was married. Now you find yourself being divorced and separated and single. Even though marriage is supposed to be forever, in reality, it's not. Trust me, I know. I've been down that road more than once. But guess what I learned in the process? Learning is completely mine. You can be in the back of a police officer's car in handcuffs, but guess what he cannot take from you is your ability to learn. You can be in jail right now amongst robbers and thieves and murderers, but guess what's completely yours? Your ability to learn. That's completely yours. No gold, no silver, nobody on this earth can take that from you. That's completely yours. That's why I'm now done with my 3rd college degree. That's why I got the application now to pursue my doctorate degree, because I understand that concept. And listen, everybody, instead of us using this platform, social media platform, as a means to degrade, to divide, to kill each other, why don't we try to just lend a helping hand? Because remember, we all are fighting a hard battle within ourselves. And that's something you can't see. God bless everybody. Be safe. Peace.
Close, and you're thickening the ghost of you, bleeding tired as you